Up top, Landale caps it off to Landale. Put the okey-doke on it.
Out to Landale, three-pointer, shoots it!
Landale, good catch, goes up, got the bucket, count that, and the foul, the deuce, and the damage for Jock.
All right, Jock, we're at your spot, Moxie. What's your order? What do you usually get? I know you're a big coffee addict, like me.
Yeah, no, it's changes over the years and changes probably week to week sometimes, but lately it's been a triple shot latte. So yeah, I like that a lot. I'm usually ordering a nitro cold brew for the missus as well, which is her favorite coffee at the minute. But yeah, it changes a lot. I went through an espresso stage recently as well. Just we were out in Europe, and I thought it was a very European thing to sit there with one of those little espresso shots, be sipping on that. So I tried that for a while, but that's pretty bleak. So I'll stick with my triple shot lattes.
And it disappears pretty quick too. That little shot.
It's a short-lived coffee experience if you're like me and you guzzle it. So yeah, I went back to the lattes.
You mentioned the missus, so I'll go ahead and hit you on that question.
I'm always talking about her in these interviews.
So India, you're engaged, and I saw some of the pictures that you posted on Twitter and Instagram. You guys were at Central Park, I believe. It looked like a snow-covered gazebo.
We lucked out with that big time. We were so I was coming off our longest road trip of the year last year, and we were like probably 10 days into it. I hadn't seen her in a while. And she flew in with some of her family to watch the games in New York because they all love New York. And I actually, her sister's fiance at the time flew out with the ring from Australia the morning that I proposed to India. So I was in Philadelphia. We were on a train to New York, and I get this notification on your phone as you do, like huge snowstorm coming in. And I was like, crap, I hope this doesn't like mess the whole idea up. But at the time, Central Park was kind of, they're having a bad snow season or whatever, so it was kind of muddy. Anyways, I lucked out big time. The snow like dumped through the night and then it cleared up perfectly in the morning, and it set a beautiful scene. So no, I was pumped with how it all kind of unfolded.
That's great. Yeah. When's the big day?
We're going to do it after we win a gold medal in the Olympics in 2024. I know a lot of the Americans around here won't like that, but yeah, no, we want to do it post-Olympics 2024, probably out in Europe, because a lot of my family and friends will come out and see that, given that they couldn't see Tokyo this year, my first real campaign. So yeah, we'll probably do it then in the south of France or in Italy or something like that. So it's a big travel culture in Australia of getting out to Europe as much as possible, so it'll kind of fit well with the invite list and the Olympics, and everyone wanted to get out there and use some of their leave. So yeah, we're pumped.
Extra pass sets up Landry. Up top, Landale caps it off.
Sounds like you could have the ceremony and the reception on your family farm. What is it, 5,000 acres? Tell me about that, because it sounds like maybe post-NBA, you might be running that farm.
There's a lot to unpack there, but that's a farm that's been in our family for about 170 years, 180 years now. So we've been operational farm family for years on end. My dad went away from it when he was younger and went into stockbroking down in the city for a couple of years, kind of whilst I was growing up. And then we kind of, came back from Geelong, and at that point my dad had sold his business and bought the farm off the rest of the family, because after my grandfather died, it was split three ways, and he really wanted to take ownership of it. So in that process, we lost a little bit of the farm for various reasons, but he tried to snap up as much as he could. So I think it's around 7,500, 8,000 acres now, and he's been operating full time for about 10 years on his own, with the help of a couple guys up there who would kill me if I didn't mention them. But
and wait, you have what, cattle?
Cattle, sheep, numerous crops. It really is a working farm, and he's developed it a lot compared to what it used to be. It used to be, just wheat and cattle, couple head of sheep, but not too many. But he's really worked with the times, because my grandfather did things, a certain way, and which he lived and died by for 80 years of owning the farm, whatever it was. So when my dad kind of took it over, and he's re-landscaped the whole thing. He's done the house up, and he's now operating in a way which is kind of on par with how the modern world is. He's really trying to discover new ways to do things and work with the times on the way that farming's going. So he's doing a great job of it though. Like, I think that, you know, they're starting to see some good influx of cash finally, and it's starting to make some money for him, which is good because, you know, in certain parts of Australia, farms can be black holes for money. So hopefully this year I can convince him to come out and watch a game, because, you know, as much as this has been my dream for a long time, it's also been one of their biggest dreams. And I know that I mean, my mum still tears up. You know, I was sitting in the locker room the other day, she called me on FaceTime, and I just kind of like flipped the camera around, showed her just the name tag on my door, and she was bursting out crying and all of that. So
Is that in the locker?
my name and my new number on the locker, and she just started bursting out crying because she hasn't been here for any of the NBA, and she hates that because they're typically out a lot. When I was in Serbia, they were out a lot. All my international campaigns they've been there for. So this is kind of the first league that I've been a part of that they really haven't seen any basketball of. So the problem with the Spurs was as well last year is we didn't have any televised games. So it was hard for them to kind of get a hold of some footage and watch something.
Now Lee gets it left corner, penetrates, dunks for Landale, who throws it down with both hands. A big-time dunk by Jock Landale. Floats across the lane, and the Aussie says, I'll send that back to Kentucky.
I want to go back to your childhood because you talked about boarding school, and I'm not sure if that plays into this survival camp that you went to. And it wasn't a camp because you were there for like a year.
Yeah.
And I think you were, 14 years of age, and you'd been playing basketball, and a coach told you weren't going to be good enough for basketball.
Yeah.
And then you went to a survival camp. Describe what that camp was all about and how you came out of that a year later.
I played a little bit when I was younger. It wasn't a lot, and that's probably a reason that he told me that I was going to be no good. But yeah, he kind of, one of my coaches told me pretty bluntly that it was never going to happen for me, and I quit. It's plain and simple. I quit for 4 years. I think was kind of the longest gap where I just didn't pick up a ball. So Geelong Grammar is the school I went to, and they've got a campus in our freshman year called Timbertop, where they send us away for the year. We go up into the mountains and we cut ourselves off from society, essentially, with the understanding that it's going to build independence from your family, independence from electronics in the modern world. You're going to be able to work within a team environment really well, and those are lessons that I've brought with me today. We're all split up into what we call units, which is essentially just a hut or a little cabin of about 12 guys, and we pretty much fend for ourselves for most part of a year.
Did you go into this willingly, or was it? I'd be kicking and screaming probably.
My dad is somebody who I idolize, and you know, back then I would say more so than right now, which he would love to hear, is somebody that I used to listen to a lot, and I was on par with in terms of the way I viewed the world and stuff like that. So when he told me like Timbertop was one of the best years I've ever had as a young man growing up, I was like, right, this is going to be one of the best years I've had as a young man growing up as well. So I kind of went into it with this mindset that I was very open and to whatever the curriculum was going to throw at me. I was in for a big shock. That first term was probably one of the hardest terms or hardest training camps, I suppose you could say, of my entire life, because I was out of shape, I was fat, all that stuff. The first term, I can break it down term by term, but the first term is essentially, there's a short run and a long run, and then on the weekends we hike. It's like 3 days, probably about 90 kilometres or thereabouts, 60 to 90 kilometres I'd say. And that's just the first term. So you can imagine what it's like when you get to the fourth term and you're doing the same thing, but it's, you know, we worked our way up to a half marathon, and that was every week we were running damn near a half marathon. And then on our weekends, typically we would do 4-day hikes through that period, but the last one at the very end, we did a 6-day hike of like 180 kilometres some groups are doing. So it's brutal. It's where I learned to love the experience of exercising and kind of fell in love and almost became obsessed with it, because I got back to regular life after that, and I was like, I can't sit still anymore. And I've never been able to sit still since. Like, my off seasons 3 days rest, and I'm like, okay, take 2 weeks, just do nothing. Take 3 days in, I'm like, I got to do something. I just can't sit still. So on top of that, you've got this unit and this house, and which I think probably ties really nicely into, you know, when you grow up and you move out from under your family's protection, you've got to keep this cabin clean. There's nobody coming in looking after it for you, but there's people coming in every week to check it, every day to check it, make sure that it's in tip-top shape. You know, you're not leaving food around so the mice can come in and eat it. And the worst, there were 2 jobs that are the most brutal. The first one is wood cutting. So every week you got to go out and you got to cut trees down. So the other job, which is to get up at 3 a.m. every morning for a week and stoke this boiler so that the unit has hot water for their showers in the morning. So every morning for that week, you're getting up at 3 a.m., you know, groggy, stoking this fire, making sure it's roaring. So by the time we're all up at 6, it's, you know, it's boiling hot. We can all have some hot showers, but, you know, guys wouldn't get up sometimes, and you get on top of them because it's, you know, that's your job, and we need hot water to have showers. But that's typically what we're looking at, you know, week to week. It's rigorous, but it teaches you a lot, and it helps you grow up really fast and become somewhat independent. You're disconnected from phones, computers, you know, you don't have anything. You write letters home for a year to connect with your family, and you read books in your free time. You're running around on this mountainside. It sounds a little crazy, but it's, man, when that you know, people talk about detoxing from social media and stuff. We had forced detox for a year, and it was one of the most rejuvenating things ever. So I learned a lot about myself in that time period, and I wish everyone could experience what I experienced, because it's a special year, and I love it. Yeah, I loved it. Certainly. My kids will for sure be going there. Really? Let me tell you. Oh yeah, nice. 100%.
Gets the switch with Gobert coming on him.
Easy meat.
Got that mouse in the house you love to see, EJ.
Yeah, that's that, man. Make you want to go out and barbecue after you see some stuff like that.
Beyond the Court is presented by Opendoor. Sell your home the new fashioned way.
Book eyes up the floor on the drive. Landale all alone. Fires the 3. Down it goes.
Patty Mills, Delhi, they go to Moraga, California. This is a small little community, Northern California. Randy Bennett's the coach there. And for some reason, this has become now a pipeline for Australians. So was that pretty much a foregone conclusion then when you started looking at colleges that was going to be your target?
No, man, I had nothing. I had nothing coming out of high school in terms of offers or communication, like not even like a message back and forth or an email from a college. I can't remember what the rules were exactly, but like I was pumping out maybe north of 500 emails just to get into a school because I was desperate to make that happen. And I got no emails back, not one time. The way that it kind of all eventuated was I had 2 mates at St. Mary's at the time, and they were out in Australia doing one of their campaigns where, you know, they go around, they play a few games just to bring awareness to the fact that St. Mary's is the place to be as an Aussie, which is a tactical decision on their behalf, and it's working. But all I did was just went along and watched the game. I had no plans of ever going to St. Mary's. At that point, I was like, man, I might never play. Like, who knows? So I walked across the court after the game to say good day to Dane and Emmett. And as they tell me the story, because obviously they're not allowed to talk to me face-to-face at the time, they went, who's this big kid walking across the court? 2 weeks later, one of their assistant coaches, Adam Capehorn, flew out to Geelong Grammar, where we didn't have a high school team, to watch me play a little bit. And what that was me playing against some of my best mates still to this day, who are all about, you know, 5'6" to 5'9".
You set up this match.
Yeah. I set it up. I called 9 guys. I said, hey, I got this opportunity. Can you help me out? Come down, play, make me look good. And so, you know, these guys are all there. We play for about an hour. And the call back to St. Mary's was, look, I think he's pretty good, but I can't tell because he's playing against, you know, a bunch of 5'5" guys. It's too hard to tell. So they decided to fly me out another 2 weeks later, which is right about the time of the signing period was beginning. So I did my official there. Pretty much went in out of shape. Was a brutal, I was in America for 4 days. Flew in, did the visit, flew right back out. Oh, it might have been 2 days. I can't even remember. But
Did you scrimmage while you were there?
so I scrimmaged with him, and dude, it got to the point at the end of the day, because you have to cross half court every time, I was just like, I just need to get to half court. So I would run to half court, and by that time, the shot's gone up, there's been a score, and I would run back on defense. I wasn't even playing offense by the end of the day because I was so exhausted, and they offered me a scholarship. So at that point, my dad wasn't in the room, which he was frustrated about, but I got this scholarship offer, and I was like, I'll take it. Like, I've got nothing else going for me. I've got no other options. I'm willing to come here if you guys will give me this scholarship. And they said, yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of how it went. Now, I went in there and had a brutal first 2 years. And again, there were questions in the back of my mind, am I going to make it? Is this ever going to turn into something real, or am I just here for a bit of fun? And then luckily I had that breakout season in my junior year and became a 2-time All-American essentially.
And at one point, your senior year too. I mean, you were not only the conference player of the year, but you were in the conversation for National Player of the Year at one point with Trae Young. I read an article.
And DeAndre Ayton, yeah, that's right. I think DA beat me. I think he beat me out for the Center of the Year award or something like that.
I'm sure that'll come up in the locker room.
Nah, hasn't yet. He probably didn't even know. He was probably like, I got this in the bag regardless. So fair enough, and props to him. But that senior year was pretty decorated, and but the thing that people don't give the guys that I was playing with enough credit, because we played a team brand of basketball and there was not a whole lot of selfish play going on. They threw the ball to me on the block a lot, and I was efficient enough to score down there. But man, I lucked out big time with my 2 point guards in Joe Rehan and Emmett Nah. They definitely got me 16 of those 20 points a game. So. It was a great team to be a part of, and I definitely couldn't have found a better situation. Because after my third year, I considered coming out of college and going into the NBA, and that would have ended badly. And there was conversation around a transfer to a high major, because I know there were high major schools recruiting me at the time, and I didn't even bat an eyelid at that. I was like, no chance, because I just knew for a fact that I would get buried behind someone else. A high-level recruit or something like that, and I would just be like a insurance policy almost. So I'm a loyal guy, and I stayed loyal to St. Mary's with the intention of trying to win a championship there first and foremost, but knowing that was a great place for me mentally, physically, all of that stuff. So yeah.
Landale.
They didn't call bank.
Some late night banking.
Didn't call bank, but the door was left open.
Green is on him. Landale releases. Got it! Oh! The Australian off balance.
You go undrafted. Now you take the European tour and you bounce around there. But at the same time, you're representing Australia. You played the World Cup. Was that 2019? Where I think one of your coaches was Luke Longley.
Yep.
Former son.
Yeah.
And then you made the Olympic team. Eventually played in the Olympics in 2021. So what was it that got you over the hump and ended up in the invitation with the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich?
That was a trialing time, those 3 years that I was out of the league in Europe and Australia, because there are a lot of contractual obligations that kind of helped. They restricted me from coming to the NBA, and there were offers there were opportunities from post my first year to come to the NBA, but we couldn't partake in any of it because that was just the way my contract was laid out at the time.
But you did have a quick hit in the summer league, right, with the Milwaukee Bucks, and actually averaged 18 points and 7 rebounds.
I played really well that summer league, and that was when the offers started rolling in the front door, but couldn't do it because of various clauses in my contract from a situation. So we were right on the doorstep, and it was just about finding the right situation to kind of walk into. And I got to the end of my Melbourne United season where I was the MVP and got onto the Olympic campaign and was crushing that. And it was like crickets. Like, I wasn't hearing anything, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, is this what my career is going to be about? Like, I'm right there, and then when it comes time to sign a contract, there's nothing. So the Spurs luckily had a good game against Pop and the US, and kind of opened the front door to this possibilities out of here. So it was an emotional time, to say the least, going into now a bronze medal game, having this like NBA contract on its way, and it's 3 years of disappointment and heartbreak, and I'd built this up in my head so much to get to this level and make it happen, and had been let down so many times before. I was like, when they finally, we had the conversation, we want to sign you, and I made that commitment, I was like, this isn't going to happen. Like, something's going to go wrong here. And so that's where my mind was at the whole time. It was like, something's going to happen here that's going to stuff it all up. And luckily, it all went smoothly, and I managed to become a San Antonio Spur and get that opportunity from them, and that was incredible.
You just needed that break, that one break,
break.
and that one coach that maybe has confidence in you, whether or not that's Pop or one of the assistants at San Antonio. But you were also a part of him breaking the all-time coaching record too, when he passed Don Nelson Sr. for most wins by an NBA coach.
There was so much went into that throughout. Like that was kind of what it felt like sometimes our season was about. It wasn't about the San Antonio Spurs winning games and competing for a playoff spot. It was, is Pop going to break this record? And a lot of people at the start of the season said, no way. San Antonio's not good enough. We won't win more than 24 games or something like that. I think we were pegged to win at the start of the year. To then kind of see us break that, go back in the locker room, it was almost just like there was like a weight off his shoulder, a weight off our shoulder, and we got to celebrate this record, and it's incredible. Like, how many times do you get to break a record of such magnitude? That was a sweet experience to be a part of, and hats off to him, because he's a legend of the game, and he's got a few more good seasons in him. I don't know how long it'll be for, but that record's going to keep ticking away, and we'll see if anyone else can get it.
Paul on the crossover, gets to the sweet spot, up top to Landale with the finish.
Great hands by Landale.
You've joined a new family here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Initial impressions of coming to Phoenix, the city, and especially to your teammates, because it sounds like you're already developing a really strong relationship with some of the guys. It's
one of the better team environments I've ever been in, as far as guys hanging out off the court, the vibe in the locker room. It's next to none. I feel like we're in good stead to kind of have really good camaraderie on and off the court, and they're ripping blokes. So yeah.
That's different from cracking blokes.
Nah, that's the same message. We have 100 ways to say the exact same thing in Australia. So they're good fellas, and I really enjoy hanging out with them on and off the court.
This has been great, man. You've taught me so much. Some of the lingo, Aussie lingo, but more than anything, you introduced me to Moxie. This place is fantastic.
Best coffee in town, man. We've, I want to say for like good 3 weeks, we're here every day, sometimes twice a day. So that's our vibe. We like to just chill in coffee shops and enjoy the coffee shop vibe. And I'm glad you like it.
Well, whether you like it or not, you may run into me again here. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Cheers.